What does it take to be the villain in a sport built on tradition, respect, and the so-called unwritten rules? Cheating? Arrogance? Or maybe I'm just being too good? Baseball has its heroes, legends etched in history with golden gloves and walk-off homers. But just beneath that polished surface lies a darker narrative the players fans loved to hate. From spitball scandals to all-out brawls, we're breaking down the most hated players in baseball history, and exactly why they earned that reputation. And trust me, you won't see the most controversial one coming. Let's start with the name that splits fans faster than a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, Barry Bonds. He's the all-time home run leader, 762 to be exact. But ask around and you'll hear a chorus of he cheated, he juiced, and he doesn't deserve the record. Bonds was already a phenomenal player before the steroid era, but once his body began to change and the home runs piled up, the suspicions turned to accusations. His ties to the Balco scandal made him the face of baseball's steroid problem. He never tested positive, but the court of public opinion had already ruled. Fans booed him relentlessly. Stadiums held signs with syringes and asterisks. Love him or hate him, Bonds became a walking controversy, and maybe the greatest example of how success, when shrouded in doubt, breeds hate. Then there's Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod. He had it all. The looks, the talent, the contracts worth hundreds of millions. But beneath the superstar glow was a career littered with mistrust. A-Rod's downfall began with performance-enhancing drugs. Like Bonds, his stats were otherworldly. But unlike Bonds, A-Rod did admit to using steroids, and not just once. He was suspended for an entire season in 2014, the longest PED-related suspension in league history at the time. Fans saw him as fake, a corporate-made icon whose smile hid arrogance. He sued the MLB, denied everything, and only years later came clean. Even after retirement and a surprisingly charming turn as a broadcaster, many fans still haven't forgiven him. In Yankee Stadium, he was both a legend and a lightning rod. Speaking of PEDs, we have to talk about Jose Canseco. He was the original bad boy of baseball, part of the famed Bash Brothers with Mark McGwire. But his real infamy came not just from using steroids, but from outing everyone else. In his tell-all book, Juiced, Canseco named names. He turned private locker room secrets into public scandals, and in doing so, he burned every bridge he ever walked on. Some called him brave, most called him a traitor. He wasn't just hated by fans, he was blackballed by the league, exiled by his peers, and mocked endlessly in pop culture. But here's the irony. Many of his accusations turned out to be true, so was he the villain or the truth-teller baseball needed? Next up, Pete Rose, baseball's all-time hits leader, and arguably its most stubborn rebel. Rose was the ultimate hustle player, diving headfirst into bases, playing every inning like it was Game 7. But his competitive fire didn't stop on the field. Rose was caught betting on baseball while managing the Reds, including games involving his own team. That broke baseball's cardinal sin. The result? A lifetime ban. No Hall of Fame, no ceremonies, nothing. Rose never truly apologized, at least not sincerely, and he constantly lobbied for reinstatement, often in defiant tones. To purists, he defiled the game. To others, he was a martyr for a crime that didn't impact the actual play. The hate? It came from both sides, those who saw him as a liar and those exhausted by his never-ending crusade. Roger Clemens, one of the greatest pitchers to ever grip a baseball, also found himself trapped in the steroid era's fallout. His numbers were insane. 7 Cy Young Awards, 354 wins, over 4,600 strikeouts. But then came the accusations, the congressional hearings, and the endless denials. Clemens swore he never used PEDs, but the Mitchell report told a different story. And beyond the steroids, there was his demeanor. Clemens was intense, combative, and unapologetically aggressive. He famously threw a broken bat toward Mike Piazza during the 2000 World Series, an incident still debated today. Was it intimidation? or insanity. His fans saw passion. Others saw a man blinded by ego. Either way, his place in the Hall of Fame remains in limbo, just like his legacy. Jump to the modern era, and few names spark more debate than Manny Machado. Machado is insanely gifted, but he's also known for questionable hustle, dirty slides, and a cocky demeanor that rubs fans and opponents the wrong way. In the 2018 postseason, he famously said, "I'm not the type of player that's going to beat Johnny Hustle." That line became a meme and a target. People questioned his effort, his character, and his commitment to the game. Even after signing a $300 million contract, boos followed him around the league. But for every critic, there's a fan who sees the swagger as part of the package, a throwback to the brashness of old-school legends. So far, you've seen cheaters, snitches, and egos the size of Yankee Stadium. But what about hate that had nothing to do with cheating? Up next, players who were hated just for being themselves, and one who literally charged the stands to fight fans. Carlos Gomez was flashy, loud, emotional. He'd flip his bat, talk trash, and celebrate like every hit was a walk-off. But instead of applause, it earned him fastballs to the ribs. Old-school fans saw him as disrespectful. Pitchers took offense. Multiple brawls broke out because of his antics. But Gomez wasn't trying to show off. He was just passionate. Still, in a sport where tradition is sacred, passion can quickly look like provocation. And then there's John Rocker, arguably the most hated player of his generation. Rocker wasn't just disliked for how he played, but for what he said. In a 1999 interview with Sports Illustrated, Rocker unleashed a tirade of racist, homophobic, and xenophobic comments. He insulted entire cities, mocked minorities, dismissed immigrants. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Fans booed him relentlessly. Teams refused to sign him. He was suspended, fined, and even his own teammates distanced themselves. In a game that thrives on community and pride, Rocker turned himself into a public pariah. Not for cheating, not for showboating, but for hate speech. And to this day, his name remains synonymous with disgrace. So, what really makes a baseball player hated? It's not just cheating. After all, many PED users are still beloved. It's not just arrogance. Plenty of players have big personalities and get cheered. And it's not even poor behavior. Fans are willing to forgive, if there's remorse. What turns fans against a player is a combination of things: success without humility, talent without integrity, and fame without accountability. In baseball, a sport that clings to its traditions and cherishes unwritten rules, those who break them, or worse, mock them, quickly become enemies. Sometimes it's deserved. Other times, it's just narrative. But now we want to hear from you. Who do you think is the most hated player in baseball history, and did they deserve it? Drop your answers in the comments below. Let's debate. Let's vent. Let's break down the myths and the moments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the darker side of the diamond, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Leader Insights, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode. Because next time, we're diving into the most beloved players in baseball history. And you might be surprised who didn't make the list. Thanks for watching. Until next time, play ball.